For years she managed the farm with firm hands and an open heart, but when love knocked on her door, something didn't fit. Disguised among her workers, she discovered truths she never imagined, because to see the soul, sometimes you need to hide your face. Welcome to the channel. Before we begin, leave your like and subscribe so we can continue creating stories like this one. The sun fell mercilessly on the fields of Magnolia Farm, one of the most prosperous properties in Oakville. Amidst that paradise of vegetation and fertile land, Mrs. Hope Morgan observed with pride what her hands and those of her ancestors had built over generations. At 52, her face reflected a beauty weathered by the sun and the wisdom that only experience can bestow. "Ma'am, they've brought the new fertilizers you ordered," announced Tyler, the foreman who had worked for the Morgan family for decades. "Thank you, Tyler. Tell the boys to store them in the large warehouse," replied Hope as she adjusted the hat that protected her from the relentless Texas sun. Her life had been hard work, dedication, and sacrifice. After her husband's passing 15 years ago, she had taken the reins of the farm, transforming it into a reference in the region. Her hands, once delicate, now showed the marks of someone who knows the land intimately. But 6 months ago, something had changed in Hope's life. Something, or rather, someone. Ryan Reed. "My queen, are you ready for dinner?" I reserved at that. "Restaurant you love so much downtown," said Ryan, appearing on the path that connected the main house with the stables. At 37, his elegant bearing contrasted with the rustic environment of the farm, as if he were a piece from another puzzle. "Give me a few minutes, Ryan. I need to review some accounts first," she replied, feeling that tingling in her stomach that he always provoked. Ryan approached, wrapping his arms around her from behind, placing a kiss on her neck. "Always working. You're the most dedicated woman I've ever known. That's why I admire you so much." Hope smiled, but inside something stirred, a doubt that had been forming for weeks. What had Ryan seen in her? Was it really love, or was he attracted to the comfort the farm provided? Since meeting him at that agricultural fair, he had courted her with a persistence that melted her defenses. After so many years of solitude, Hope had allowed love back into her life. That night, as they dined on the terrace of the elegant restaurant, Hope observed Ryan animatedly conversing with the sommelier about expensive wines. Her fiancé seemed to know luxury all too well for someone who claimed to come from humble origins. "You know what, my love? I was thinking about modernizing the irrigation system in the north sector," she commented, testing a tactic she had planned for days. "More investments? Hope, darling, don't you think we should wait? After all, why spend so much if what we have works well?" he responded, taking her hand across the table. "It's precisely to improve what works," she replied, noticing how he quickly changed the subject to wedding plans. 3 days later, Hope announced a sudden trip to Austin. "Business with the Department of Agriculture," she explained to Ryan, who offered to accompany her. "That won't be necessary, my love. They're boring meetings and you need to supervise the arrival of the new breeding stock." On the plane, as she flew over the Texas valleys, Hope mentally reviewed her plan. She wasn't going to any meeting. She would return that same night, but not to the main house. She would head to the small lodging for temporary workers, where Lucy, her housekeeper and lifelong confidant, would help with her transformation. "If he loves me for who I am, not for what I have, he should demonstrate that when he doesn't." "No, it's me," she thought, feeling a mixture of determination and fear. By nightfall, as the Oakville sky filled with stars, a simple-looking woman crossed the back gates of the farm. She had her hair tucked under a worn hat, worn jeans, work boots, and a loose shirt that concealed her figure. Without makeup and with simple glasses she never wore publicly, Hope was now Helen Sanders, the new helper hired for the harvest season. "Are you sure about this, boss?" whispered Lucy as she handed her a backpack with the basics. "More than ever, Lucy. Sometimes you need to disguise yourself to see the naked truth." The next morning, Helen Hope reported to the stables, where Tyler, following his boss's secret instructions, assigned her various basic tasks. Her first encounter with Ryan didn't take long to arrive. "Who's that?" he asked the foreman, pointing to the new worker carrying hay bales. "Helen, the new one," Temporary. Good worker, they say. Ryan barely looked at her, passing by her side, as if passing by a piece of furniture. Not a greeting, not a gesture of recognition. For Hope, it was the first visible crack in the facade of the man who claimed to adore her. What she didn't know was that this small seed of doubt would flourish in the coming days, revealing much more than she was prepared to discover. 3 days had passed since Helen started working at Magnolia Farm. 3 days in which Hope had observed Ryan from the shadows, discovering facets of her fiancé that she had never seen before. That morning, while feeding the horses, she heard Ryan's voice speaking with Peter, one of the handlers. "Look, I need you to get me the keys to the main office. There are some documents I need to review. But Mr. Ryan, the boss left instructions that no one should enter until her return. Who do you think is in charge here when Hope isn't around? Besides, I'm her future husband. What's hers will soon be mine too." Hope felt a chill run down her spine. They had never talked about merging assets or sharing the farm's administration. That afternoon, while Helen was cleaning the corrals, Ryan approached her for the first time, walking with that studied elegance that had attracted her before. "You, the new one. What's your name?" "Helen, sir." "Helen Sanders," she replied, lowering her gaze as any worker would do before the boss. "You're assigned to the stables, right? I need you to go to the main house to fetch some papers from the office." "I'm sorry, sir, but the foreman told me not to leave this area." Ryan's face transformed instantly. The charming smile he always showed Hope disappeared, revealing an expression of disgust. "Are you questioning me? Do you know who I am here?" "An employee like me, as far as I know," muttered another worker passing nearby, low enough that Ryan couldn't hear her, but Hope did. The incident remained at that, but the next day things got worse. During an unexpected storm, one of the newborn calves escaped from its pen. Helen was the first to notice and ran out in the rain to rescue it. Soaked and covered in mud, she managed to bring the animal back. When she returned, she found Ryan in the stable, giving orders as if he were the absolute owner. "There's the calf. I found it near the creek and sent the new girl to get it," he exclaimed upon seeing Helen enter with the animal. The lie was so blatant that even the farmhands exchanged looks of astonishment. Everyone had seen Ryan taking shelter from the rain while Helen ran after the calf. "Thanks to my precise directions, we saved a valuable animal," Ryan continued, strutting in front of Robert, the veterinarian who had arrived to check on the cattle. That night, sheltered in her humble workers' room, Hope cried for the first time since starting her plan. They weren't tears of sadness, but of contained anger and disappointment. The man to whom she had opened her heart, with whom she planned to share the rest of her life, was an imposter. The next day, Helen was assigned to clean the tool shed. While organizing the equipment, she heard Ryan talking on the phone. "Yes, everything is going according to plan. The old lady is eating out of my hand. The wedding in 2 months. Of course, once we're married, I can convince her to sell the north property. It's perfect for the tourism development we're planning. No, she doesn't suspect anything." Hope's heart stopped for an instant. The north property was the most fertile on the farm, where the best crops were grown. Ryan had never mentioned any interest in tourism developments, but what hurt her most was hearing him refer to her as the old lady. The contempt in his voice was unmistakable. That same day, while Helen was helping unload bags of fertilizer, one of them, poorly placed by Ryan himself, collapsed, causing several others to fall. Amid the chaos, Ryan didn't hesitate to blame. "Helen, you're too old for this work. Look at what your incompetence caused." The public humiliation was the last straw. That afternoon, Ryan asked the foreman to fire Helen. "I don't want clumsy women on my farm," he said, not knowing that those words would be his condemnation. Meanwhile, Hope had discovered more. Among the workers, rumors circulated about Ryan's frequent visits to the neighboring farm, property of the Walker family, where young Melissa Walker, only 23 years old, received him with special affection. She also discovered through casual conversations with temporary accountants that significant amounts were missing from the farm's accounts. Small sums that, added together, represented a fortune diverted to investments in high-risk businesses in Ryan's name. The final revelation came when she discovered that Ryan had been forging her signature on legal documents. compromising parts of the farm as collateral for personal loans. 7 days had passed since she began her plan, 7 days in which the house of cards that Ryan had built began to crumble without him knowing. Hope made a decision. She didn't need more evidence. It was time to act. In the early morning of the 8th day, Helen mysteriously disappeared from the farm. In her place, Mrs. Hope Morgan returned from her supposed trip, elegant and determined, with an expression that none of her employees had seen before. "Gather everyone in the main yard in an hour," she ordered Tyler. Everyone, without exception, including Mr. Reed. The foreman noticed something different about his boss. An iron determination shone in her eyes. What no one knew was that beneath Mrs. Hope's serene appearance burned the fury of someone who has seen the naked truth and is ready to reclaim what is hers. The sun was just beginning to rise when the workers of Magnolia Farm gathered in the main yard. The murmur of conversations died down when Mrs. Hope appeared. She wore a typical rider's outfit, elegant and powerful, with her hair in an impeccable braid and the family medallion she only wore on special occasions. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice clear and firm. "I've gathered you because the time has come to make some important changes on this farm." Ryan, who was at the front of the group along with Tyler, smiled confidently, imagining that perhaps they would finally announce the date of their wedding. "As many of you know, this land has been in my family for generations. Every furrow, every tree, every stone on this farm bears the sweat and effort of the Morgans and all of you, who have been more than workers. You've been family." The applause was immediate. Everyone except Ryan, who was beginning to notice something strange in Hope's tone. "However," she continued, "I recently discovered that not everyone values this legacy in the same way." With a gesture, she asked Lucy to approach. The housekeeper carried a wooden box that she handed to Hope. The farm owner opened it and extracted a worn hat, simple glasses, and a scarf. "Some of you knew Helen Sanders, who worked here briefly," she said as she held the objects high. A murmur of confusion ran through the crowd. Slowly, Hope put on the glasses and hat. The transformation wasn't complete, but it was enough for recognition to dawn on the faces of those present. "My God, it was you, boss!" exclaimed one of the cowboys. The revelation provoked gasps and surprised looks. Ryan, meanwhile, had lost all color in his face. "Exactly," confirmed Hope. "During my supposed absence, I was Helen. I worked among you, ate with you, suffered with you, and I learned a lot." She took off her glasses and looked directly at Ryan. "I learned who truly respects me and who only sees in me a business opportunity." Ryan tried to speak, but she raised a hand to silence him. "There's no need for you to explain anything, Ryan. I know everything. The loans in your name using my properties as collateral, the risky investments with the farm's money, your plans to sell the North property for a tourism development, your visits to Melissa Walker." Ryan's face was now a poem of panic and shame. Some workers began to mutter insults against him. "And I also know how you treat those you consider inferior to you, how you treated Helen, a woman you considered too old and clumsy to work on your farm." The silence was absolute. No one dared to move. "Hope I can explain everything," Ryan began, recovering part of his composure. "It was just a business strategy. Everything I did was thinking of our future, of modernizing the farm." "Our future?" she cut in. "Or yours, Ryan? Was it also for our future that you referred to me as the old lady?" Tyler, the foreman, stepped forward with a severe expression, but Hope stopped him with a gesture. "No, Tyler, violence is not our way." She addressed all those present again. "Magnolia Farm has always prospered thanks to respect and honest work. These are the values my father taught me, and those that will continue to govern this place." Then she turned to Ryan. "As for you, I thank you for one thing. You reminded me who I am. I'm not just the owner of these lands. I am the daughter of those who tamed this land with their own hands, and no economic interest, no beautiful lie, can ever buy my dignity." With a gesture, she asked Richard, the administrator, to approach with a folder. "These are the documents you signed without reading when we started our relationship," she explained, showing him the papers. "Among them, a reversible investment. Contract that allows me to recover every penny you diverted. And also this. She showed him one last document, a bus ticket to Dallas. Your luggage is already packed. Tyler will accompany you to the bus station. For a moment it seemed that Ryan was going to protest, but seeing the expressions on the faces of all the workers, he knew he had lost. This won't end like this, he muttered, as he walked away, escorted by Tyler and 2 cowboys. It has already ended exactly as it should, Hope responded serenely. The following days brought significant changes to Magnolia Farm. The small house where Ryan had resided was transformed into a training center for young women who wanted to learn about agricultural management. Hope hired Isabel Ramos, a brilliant agricultural engineer, as her right hand. If there was so much doubt about female capability, let's demonstrate the opposite with results, she declared when announcing the project. She also discovered that Carmen, a former employee fired years ago after rumors of theft, had been the victim of slander orchestrated by Ryan to divert attention from his own embezzlement. Hope not only rehired her, but put her in charge of the farm's communications. A special discovery was finding in the attic an old recipe book of her mother's, which inspired her to create a line of artisanal products under the Magnolia's brand. The whiskey, traditional sweets and sauces soon became sensations at regional fairs. 6 months after that revelation in the yard, Magnolia Farm had not only recovered its financial stability, but had doubled its production, thanks to the innovations implemented by Isabel. The surprise came on a rainy afternoon when Ryan appeared at the farm entrance. He was disheveled, without the elegance that had characterized him. His businesses had failed, and he had come to ask for a second chance. I've changed, Hope. I realized what I lost. You're an extraordinary woman, and I was an idiot. Hope observed him without rancor, but also without pity. I have a vacancy, she finally said. We need someone to take care of the animals in the south sector. The work is hard, starts at dawn and ends at dusk. The pay is fair, as it is for all workers. Ryan looked at her, incredulous. You're offering me a job as a farmhand? To me? I'm offering you the opportunity to be truly useful, not to take advantage again, she responded calmly. Dignity is earned, Ryan, not inherited or bought. He left, offended, but the seed was planted. 3 weeks later he returned. This time he accepted the job. Don't expect special treatment, Hope warned him. Here everyone is valued for their work, not for their relationship with me. The months passed. Ryan learned what he had never understood, the value of honest work and genuine respect. He never regained the privileged place he once had, but he gained something more valuable, the opportunity to redeem himself. One afternoon, as Hope contemplated the sunset from her porch, surrounded by her collaborators, she reflected on everything that had happened. Do you know what was most valuable in this whole experience, Mrs. Hope? Asked Isabel as they reviewed the expansion plans. You tell me, she replied with a smile, that sometimes we need to disguise ourselves to see the naked truth. Hope nodded, looking toward the horizon where the sun painted golden the fields that she and so many generations before her had worked with love. The land always teaches us the most important lesson, Isabel, she finally said, that the best harvest is not the one we collect each season, but the one we cultivate within ourselves. And that true love doesn't fear disguises. It flourishes, even in the most arid land, but dies when interest is planted in place of respect. The last lights of the day illuminated her serene face. Magnolia Farm would continue to prosper, not only as a business, but as a legacy of strength and dignity for future generations. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Mrs. Hope Morgan has moved you and shown you that true strength is born from authenticity. To continue this emotional journey, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories about brave women who transform their destiny. Find it here by clicking to your left. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give our video a like. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity of life and the power of personal transformation. What did you think of the outcome? Would you have forgiven Ryan? We'll be waiting for you in the comments to find out.